Dan Easton's trial and divorce.
You idiots!
Let me out of here this instant. I don't deserve to be in here. Simona does. Arrest her instead and let me go.
Enough! Quit shouting like that. You're causing a disturbance in the cell block.
Shut up, you imbecilic bird brain. I will not allow that emo brat to roam around free.
Daniel Easton, will you stop roughhousing in there? You're causing a huge disruption in front of the other inmates.
I don't have to listen to you, Miss Piggy.
Excuse me? What did you call me?
You heard me, Piggy. Oink oink, oink oink, oink 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 oink.
All right, Mr. Funny Man, you asked for it.
Ouch. Missy, that hurt.
Maybe if you hadn't been causing a huge disruption in your cell and clowning around, I wouldn't have had to use force to quiet you down. Don't make me tase you. Now follow me outside. Your trial begins soon. No funny business.
If you think I'm gonna go to court to face my traitorous wife and our bratty daughters, then you are sorely mistaken.
I said let's go.
Unhand me! This is ridiculous!
Shut your mouth, you diseased maniac.
At the courthouse.
I can't believe that officer dragged me all the way to the courthouse against my will. Could this day get any worse?
All rise for the Honorable Judge Alfred Smith.
Honorable, huh? Well, I'll be the judge of that. After that, all of you pigs will be sorry. I swear it.
Silence. Order in the court. Order in the court. Okay, everyone. You may all be seated. Court is now in session. Today, we'll be hearing the case of a crazed maniac and a real misogynist. The defendant for this trial is Dan Easton. Prosecutor Henry Maverick, read the charges.
Dan Easton, you've been charged for child abuse, child neglect, child abandonment, aggravated assault, and attempted murder. How do you plead?
Not guilty, Your Honor. My stupid daughter Simona was the one who committed the attempted murder. She tried to kill Abigail Cassidy with a ruby dagger, and she and Deacon acted racist and homophobic towards Sakura Tanaka. She even bullied two autistic people alongside Alexine Davis.
HM. That's interesting. Did she try to murder Abigail with the same dagger you tried to kill your own wife with? Because when your wife spoke with the commissioner over the phone, he overheard you demanding her to open your bedroom door in order for you to kill her. Therefore the dagger was presented to me as evidence made against you. As for Sakura, she and your family may not approve of the way you treated your daughter. Speaking of which, I call upon my first witness, Ryo Tanaka.
Look, Dan. I understand that Simona and Deacon messed with my daughter Sakura, but you've been too rough on not just her, but your whole family. You turned your own wife Maria and your other daughter Adriana against Simona, gave her a belt beating, used your wife to help you with the belt and the disowning. And you threatened to kill your own family with the same dagger Simona used to hold Abigail hostage during the mass assault war Sean created. You're a real psychopath, Dan. And for that, I say you're guilty.
Thank you, Ryo. I call upon my next witness, Chiyo Tanaka.
I agree with Ryo. Dan's become a psychopath and a Looney Tune misogynist. So I say he's guilty.
Thank you, Chiyo. I call upon my next witness, Sakura Tanaka.
Mr. Easton, while I admit that Simona offended me all because I'm a bisexual girl of Japanese descent, you've done much worse. Giving her the belt, threatening to kill her mom with the same ruby dagger she used to hold Abigail hostage, and threatening to assault Simona? Now that was not cool. You have really crossed the line here, mister. You're even worse than Mr. Buford. So for everything you've done to your own daughter, I say you're guilty.
Thank you, Sakura. I call upon my next witness, Sara Tanaka.
I agree with Sakura. I say Mr. Easton's guilty.
Thank you, Sara. I call upon my next witness, Ren Tanaka.
I'm on the same page as Sora. I say Mr. Easton's guilty.
Thank you, Ren. I call upon my next witness, Akio Tanaka.
So am I. I say Mr. Easton's guilty.
Thank you, Akio. I call upon my next witness, Kenji Tanaka.
Me too. Mr. Easton's a bad man. a very, very bad man. So I say he's guilty.
Thank you, Kenji. I call upon my next witness, Hiroshi Tanaka.
Me 3. I say Mr. Easton's guilty.
Thank you, Hiroshi. I call upon my next witness, Akira Tanaka.
Me 4. I say Mr. Easton's guilty.
Thank you, Akira. I call upon my next witness, Rodrigo Evans.
You know, Dan, you remind me of Gracie, only worse. While I agree that Simona and Alexi bullied my second eldest son Justin and his best friend Phoenix all because of their autism, you treated your own daughter very badly. And for everything you've done, I say you're guilty.
Thank you, Rodrigo. I call upon my next witness, Gio Evans.
I agree with Rodrigo. Not only is Dan an even bigger psychopath than Gracie herself, but he's also a sick, demented, misogynistic freako. And for everything he's done to Simona, I say he's guilty.
Thank you, Gia. I call upon my next witness, Osiris Evans.
Even though my parents gave me a belt beating for teaming up with Nash to sabotage Stephanie's date with her ex, Mr. Easton's done much worse to not just Simona, but her mom too. He forced Simona's own mom to accompany him in giving their own daughter a belt beating for bullying my brother and disowning her for attempting to kill Abigail with a ruby dagger. Therefore, I say he's guilty.
Thank you, Osiris. I call upon my next witness, Justin Evans.
Simona may have teamed up with Alexine to bully me and my best friend Phoenix, but what Mr. Easton did to his own daughter was much worse. He's just as bad as Alexine's mom. So for all the times he assaulted Simona and forced her own mom to tag along with the belt beating and the disowning, I say he's guilty.
Thank you, Justin. I call upon my next witness, Caleb Evans.
I agree with my older brothers. I say Mr. Easton's guilty.
Thank you, Caleb. I call upon my next witness, Claire Evans.
I'm on the same page as Caleb. I say Mr. Easton's guilty.
Thank you, Claire. I call upon my next witness, Megan Evans.
So am I. Mr. Easton's almost as bad as Mr. Webster, so I say the former's guilty.
Thank you, Megan. I call upon my next witness, Phoenix.
It's one thing for Mr. Easton to assault Simona a few times and force her mom to help give her the belt and disown her. But to threaten to kill her, her sister Adriana, and their mom with the same ruby dagger Simona used to hold Abigail hostage? That's even worse. Therefore, I say he's guilty.
Thank you, Phoenix. I call upon my next witness, Ethan Cassidy.
Dan's almost as psychotic as Pierre Webster, but equally as psychotic as Sean. He's been assaulting Simona and he threatened to kill her along with Adriana and their mother. And what's worse, he thought about killing them with the same ruby dagger that Simona used to hold my daughter Abigail hostage during the mass assault against her and Deacon. Therefore, I say he's guilty.
Thank you, Ethan. I call upon my next witness, Charlotte Cassidy.
I agree with Ethan. We may have been upset at Simona for holding our daughter Abigail hostage with a ruby dagger, but Dan's been assaulting his own daughter numerous times, and he threatened to use the same ruby dagger to kill both his daughters and his wife for confronting him about everything he's done to the one daughter he hated the most. And for all the times he made Simona suffer, I say he's guilty.
Thank you, Charlotte. I call upon my next witness, Abigail Cassidy.
Look, Mr. Easton. I totally get that Simona held me hostage with the use of a ruby dagger, but it's not okay for you to assault her or even threaten to kill her, her sister, or their mom. What you did was much, much worse. And for that, I say you're guilty.
Thank you, Abigail. I call upon my next witness, Rex McMillan.
I agree with Abigail. Mr. Easton's much worse than Maximus Danger. Sure, Simona threatened to slice her with a ruby dagger, but her dad assaulted her a bunch of times and he tried to kill not just her, but her sister Adriana and their mom. And the worst thing is, he used the same dagger Simona brought with her during that mass assault war between her ex-deacon, and the Sage crew. Therefore, I say he's guilty.
Thank you, Rex. I call upon my next witness, Felix McMillan.
I agree with Rex. I say Mr. Easton's guilty.
Thank you, Felix McMillan. I call upon my next witness, Conrad Brown.
Dan, have you gone mad? Assaulting your own daughter Simona, and threatening to kill your entire family with the same ruby dagger she used during that mass assault war against her. Look, I get that she tried to kill Abigail and messed with Sakura all because she was bisexual and of Japanese descent, but you've gone too far. And for that, I find you guilty.
Thank you, Conrad. I call upon my next witness, Trinity Brown.
I agree with Conrad. I say Dan's guilty.
Thank you, Trinity. I call upon my next witness, Felix Brown.
Even though Mr. Buford planned that mass assault war between his own son Deacon, Simona, and the Sage crew, her dad's no better because he assaulted her a bunch of times. Mr. Easton even threatened to kill her, her sister Adriana, and their mom with the same ruby dagger Simona brought with her during that mass assault against her and Deacon. Therefore, I say he's guilty.
Thank you, Felix Brown. I call upon my next witness, Kingsley Brown.
I agree with Felix. I say Mr. Easton's guilty.
Thank you, Kingsley. I call upon my next witness, Wallace Brown.
I'm on the same page as Kingsley. I say Mr. Easton's guilty.
Thank you, Wallace. I call upon my next witness, Titan Brown.
So am I. I say Mr. Easton's guilty for acting like a complete psychopath.
Thank you, Titan. I call upon my next witness, Taylor Brown.
You have really crossed the line here, Mr. Easton. Assaulting Simona and threatening to kill her and the rest of her family with the same dagger she used to hold Abigail hostage during that mass assault against her and Deacon. And forcing her own mom to give her a belt beating and disown her the day she and Deacon got expelled and arrested for that mass assault war that was set up by his own dad. Those were all the worst things you've ever done. And to do that to your own family. If I had known you were treating Simona that way, I wouldn't have wished she was dead on the news the day after you disowned her. For that, I say you're guilty.
Wait a minute. Taylor, you sent Simona a death threat on the news?
Yeah, but ever since I found out that Deacon got bullied by Sage, Vincent, Luke, Michael Dale, and Dustin Halifax for having long hair, I began to regret doing that. So I went to the park to make amends with both him and Simona for my hand at everything that happened during the 2021-2022 school year when we were at Springfield together.
Well, while I'm glad you didn't actually kill Deacon and Simona, and owned up to your past actions, you should know that death threats are very serious and you could get in trouble. So I'll let you off with a warning. If you actually carry on to those threats, or even make threats like that again, you're going to jail. You understand?
I do.
Okay, Taylor. But other than that, I ought to thank you for your testimony. Anyway, I call upon my next witness, Diesel Gavin.
Dan, are you insane? You assaulted Simona numerous times and threatened to kill your own entire family with the same ruby dagger she used during that mass assault war against her and Deacon. This is completely unacceptable. You're almost as bad as Pierre Webster. You're even worse than Sean Buford. And for that, I say you're guilty.
Thank you, Diesel. I call upon my next witness, Eric Gavin.
I agree with my dad. Yes, Simona ruined Stephanie's slumber party, held Abigail hostage during that mass assault war between her, Deacon, and the Sage crew, and offended Sakura in more ways than one. But Mr. Easton, what you did to your own daughter was much worse. You threatened to kill her, her sister Adriana, and their mom with the same ruby dagger Simona brought with her. You even assaulted your own daughter a bunch of times, and for all the harm you caused her, I say you're guilty.
Thank you, Eric. I call upon my next witness, Stephanie Gavin.
Mr. Easton, you've lost your mind. You've been beating your own daughter up for little to no reason at all. Yes, she and Deacon offended Sakura because she was bisexual and of Japanese descent and they brought weapons with them during that mass assault war between us. But none of that stuff is an excuse for you to put Simona through all that pain. And for that, I say you're guilty.
Thank you, Stephanie. I call upon my next witness, Natalie Gavin.
I know Simona committed a serious offense by holding Abigail hostage with the ruby dagger during a mass assault war between them, Deacon, and the rest of the Sage crew. But Mr. Easton, you've done much worse by assaulting Simona numerous times and threatening to kill not just her, but the rest of her entire family with the same weapon she used. And for that, I find you guilty.
Thank you, Natalie Gavin. I call upon my next witness, Terence Gavin.
I agree with Natalie. I say Mr. Easton's guilty.
Thank you, Terence. I call upon my next witness, Elizabeth Gavin.
I'm on the same page as Terence. I say Mr. Easton's guilty.
Thank you, Elizabeth. I call upon my next witness, Joseph Gavin.
So am I. Simona may have threatened the life of one of Stephanie's friends, but Mr. Easton's been treating his own daughter like his favorite punching bag. And for that, I say he's guilty.
Thank you, Joseph. I call upon my next witness, Atmore.
Mr. Buford orchestrating a mass assault war between his own son Deacon and the sage crew and framing Mr. Martel for that and setting up a corruption scandal was bad enough. What Mr. Easton did, however, was much worse. First, he forced Simona's own mom to give her a belt beating as a punishment for bullying Justin Evans and his best friend Phoenix. Then he forced his own wife to disown their own daughters, and she and Deacon got expelled and arrested for that mass assault war. And finally, he assaulted Simona numerous times and threatened to kill her entire family with the same ruby dagger she had in her possession when she held Abigail hostage. Mr. Easton, you are a very dangerous psychopath. And for all the stuff you did to Simona, I say you're guilty.
Thank you, Art. I call upon my next witness, Maxwell Worthington.
I agree with Art. What Mr. Easton's been doing to Simona was even more insane than what Mr. Buford did to Deacon. And for that, I find Simona's dad guilty.
Thank you, Maxwell. I call upon my next witness, Duncan Clark.
I agree with Maxwell. I say Mr. Easton's guilty.
Thank you, Duncan. I call upon my next witness, Marvin Jonas.
Look, Mr. Easton, as a black man myself, I know what it's like dealing with racist people. But you've been beating Simona up a bunch of times and you threatened to kill not just her, but your own family. And you plan to use the same ruby dagger Simona brought with her during that mass assault war between her, Deacon, and the Sage crew. And for that, I say you're guilty.
Thank you, Marvin. I call upon my next witness, Thiago Urena.
I agree with Marvin. Mr. Easton, you are so sick in the head. So I find you guilty.
Thank you, Thiago. I call upon my next witness, Russell Peterson.
Mr. Easton reminds me of the parents of a former classmate of mine and my sister's. When we were at Albany High School together, our former principal, Mr. O, got Tracy Robbins expelled for severely injuring my sister. Then she got disowned by her parents after when Officer Russell blindly allowed me, Jenny, our dad, and our teacher Mr. Watley to assault her on school grounds. And that's exactly what Mr. Easton did to Simona after when she and Deacon got expelled and arrested for that mass assault war between them and the Sage crew. Only worse. Therefore, I say he's guilty.
Wait a minute. An officer from Albany High School allowed you, Jenny, and your father to assault Tracy after when she got expelled for severely injuring your sister.
Yeah. But I'll be honest. Jenny and I actually regretted doing that in the first place. That assault was actually our dad's idea. Mr. Watley on the other hand wasn't aware of Tracy severely injuring Jenny until Mr. O called her over to his office.
Okay, Russell, if what you're saying is true, then I suggest you call the police on your father. From what I can tell, it sounds like he's been a bad influence to you.
Well, don't take my word for it. Ask my sister. She's with me right now.
All right. I was already about to call her up anyways. Jenny Peterson, can you please come up to the stand?
Yes, Your Honor.
Jenny, it's come to my attention that your father planned that beating you gave an old classmate of yours from Albany High School named Tracy Robbins. Is this true?
In all honesty, yes, it's true. After when my mom got arrested for shooting my dad in the legs and tried to shoot me dead, I decided to disband my gang from when I was a troublemaker. Unfortunately, Tracy didn't take it well. That's when she severely injured me. A few days later, when my former principal, Mr. O, called her over to his office, he expelled her. And when Officer Russell tried to arrest her for what she did to me, she ran out of Mr. O's office and headed towards me, my brother Russell, and her dad. And when Officer Russell held her down into the ground, that's when we beat her up. I didn't want to get violent towards Tracy after disbanding my old gang, but my dad didn't give me or Russell a choice. And in the end, Tracy got disowned by her parents after when she got sent to jail with her injuries. And that last part was exactly what Mr. Easton did to Simona the day she and Deacon got expelled and arrested. The only difference, however, is that Mr. Easton assaulted Simona herself, which is why I agree with my brother when I find Simona's dad guilty.
Okay, Jenny, you've proven your brother's point. You two are going to have to call the police on your father. He's been a bad influence.
Okay, Your Honor.
Good. Anyway, I call upon my next witness, Irvin Pitts.
Dan Easton, why on earth would you treat your own daughter like a punching bag and force your own wife to disown her when she and Deacon got expelled and arrested? Why would you threaten to kill your own family with the same ruby dagger Simona brought with her to fight against Sage and Abigail? Have you lost your mind? I mean, come on. What were you thinking? It's like you don't even love Simona at all. You're almost as bad as my wife's ex. So for everything you did to your own family, I say you're guilty.
Thank you, Irvin. I call upon my next witness, Lisa Pitts.
I agree with Irvin. Dan, the way you treated Simona was similar to the way Peter treated my daughter Samantha. But lucky for you, you didn't molest any of your daughters. But regardless, I find you guilty for assaulting Simona and threatening to kill your own family with the same ruby dagger she used for the mass assault war against her and Deacon.
Thank you, Lisa. I call upon my next witness, Gerald Webster Pitts.
Mr. Easton, you're starting to remind me of my former dad. Like he did to my mom and one of my younger sisters, you forced Mrs. Easton to disown Simona and give her the belt. And for assaulting Simona and threatening to kill your own family, I say you're guilty.
Thank you, Gerald. I call upon my next witness, Samantha Webster Pitts.
You know, Mr. Easton, it's one thing for Stephanie's mom to threaten to beat me and Simona senseless along with Lena and Aurora, Alexine, and my girlfriend Cherry, but for you to force Simona's mom to give her a belt beating for bullying Osiris's younger brother Justin and the latter's best friend Phoenix like Alexine's mom did, Mr. Davis? And to disown Simona the day she and Deacon got expelled and arrested after the mass assault war between them and the Sage crew? That's wrong. And to make things worse, when Simona, her sister Adriana, and their mom confronted you about the way you treated the former, you tried to kill your own entire family. And with the same ruby dagger Simona used to hold Abigail hostage during that war that was set up by Mr. Buford. And for everything I just said, I find you guilty as charged.
Thank you, Samantha. I call upon my next witness, Savannah Webster Pitts.
I agree with my twin sister. I say Mr. Easton's guilty.
Thank you, Savannah. I call upon my next witness, Dylan Pitts.
I agree with my step-siblings. I say Mr. Easton's guilty.
Thank you, Dylan. I call upon my next witness, Carson Pitts.
I'm on the same page as my older brother and our step-siblings. I say Mr. Easton's guilty.
Thank you, Carson. I call upon my next witness, Ramona Pitts.
So am I. I say that mean old psycho's guilty.
Hey, little girl, who are you calling old?
You?
Oh yeah? Well, when I get my hands on you, I'll show you how old I really am.
Not so fast. You will not lay one single finger on that little girl. Now stay where you are.
Fine.
Good. Anyway, now that that's settled, I call upon my next witness, Damien Pitts.
It was bad enough that my step-cousin Samantha got abused by her former father, but now we're dealing with another misogynistic scumbag like you, Mr. Easton. Simona may have acted racist and homophobic towards her former classmate Sakura and committed attempted murder during the mass assault war between her, Deacon, and the Sage crew. But what you did to her ain't no better. You beat her up, disowned her, and when she got bailed out, you threatened to kill not just her, but the rest of her family. And for that, I say you're guilty.
Thank you, Damien. I call upon my next witness, Harry Bennett.
What is it with these child abusers from Springfield? First Pierre Webster, then Alan Jones, then Gracie Davis, then Curtis and Winter Wilson, then Sean Bufford, and now you, Dan. Good grief. You're completely insane. For everything you've done to not just your own daughter Simona, but your whole family as a whole, I say you're guilty. You hear me? Guilty.
Thank you, Harry. I call upon my next witness, Catherine Bennett.
I agree with Harry. Dan's loco in the cabeza. He's just as bad as my ex-husband. I remember when Paul tried to disown one of our daughters, Cadence, for assaulting Stephanie at Steele High School, but he wouldn't actually go as far as trying to kill Cadence. Dan, on the other hand, stooped to a level Paul never could when he threatened to kill not just Simona, but his entire familia with a ruby dagger. A flipping ruby dagger. So I say he's guilty.
Wait a minute. Catherine, your ex-husband tried to disown Cadence without your consent.
See, Your Honor. He did. He even sent her a death threat in front of Principal Jackson. And worst of all, he's been claiming that she's been using mental health as an excuse to insult the way he's been treating her when she actually has autism. Thus, he offended her deeply.
My word. It sounds like that Paul person you're talking about is quite an unpleasant man. And a real heartless one at that.
He definitely is. Luckily he got arrested and I filed him for a divorce before I became a cop at my hometown.
That's good news. Anyways, thank you for your testimony. I call upon my next witness, Lucas Gonzalez Bennett.
Senor Easton, have you gone plumb loco, threatening to kill not just Simona, but her hermana and her mama, all because they confronted you about all the stuff you did to Simona? I caramba, I don't even know why you would even think about doing something so psychotic. You're an even bigger misogynist than my papa was towards my dos hermanas. And I think it's pretty obvious that you're guilty as charged, you sick freak.
Thank you, Lucas. I call upon my next witness, Cadence Gonzalez Bennett.
Senor Easton, you and Senor Webster remind me of my former papa. Like he did to me. You tried to disown Simona and forced her mama to go along with it. You even threatened to kill Simona and the rest of her familia with the same ruby dagger she used during that mass assault war between her, Deacon, and the Sage crew. And for that, I say you're guilty.
Thank you, Cadence. By the way, your mother told me about all the stuff your father did to you before she divorced him. I'm sorry he abused you outside of Steele High School.
It's fine, Your Honor. I'm just glad my papa is out of my life now that he got what he deserved.
Perhaps for the better, Cadence. After all, there's been enough misogynistic child abusers in this city. Anyways, I call upon my next witness, Katrina Gonzalez Bennett.
I agree with my twin Hermana Cadence and our older hermano Lucas. Senor Easton's so loco in the cabeza. He had no right to treat Simona or the rest of her familia like that. Therefore, I say he's guilty.
Thank you, Katrina. I call upon my next witness, Tom Bennett.
I agree with my step-siblings and our parents. Mr. Easton's so sick in the head. He's just as crazy as Cadence's biological dad. So I say the former is guilty.
Thank you, Tom. I call upon my next witness, Dawn Bennett.
I'm on the same page as Tom and our step-siblings. I say Mr. Easton's guilty.
Thank you, Dawn. I call upon my next witness, Dex Bennett.
Mr. Easton's been a sick man and a bad father from the very beginning because of the way he treated his wife and kids. Mostly Simona. For everything he's done, I say he's guilty.
Thank you, Dex. I call upon my next witness, Tranquil Adams.
I agree with everything Cadence and her family just said. Mr. Easton's clearly guilty as charged for everything he did to Simona.
Thank you, Tranquil. I call upon my next witness, Charles Martel.
Unbelievable. Dan, I understand that your daughter Simona held Abigail hostage with the ruby dagger during that mass assault war that was set up by Sean. But threatening to kill not just Simona, but her sister Adriana and your own wife Maria with the same ruby dagger she used was no better. You're even crazier than Tina. If I had known you've been abusing Simona at home all this time, I wouldn't have arrested her for attempted murder. And Alan wouldn't have expelled her even though he's no better. And for that, I say you're guilty, you sick Pierre Webster 2.0.
Thank you, Charles. I call upon my next witness, Lily Martel.
I agree with Charles. I say Dan's guilty.
Thank you, Lily. I call upon my next witness, Sage Martel.
Look, Mr. Easton, I get that Simona tried to kill my ex with a ruby dagger, but ever since I found out that you've been abusing her, I began to regret assaulting her. If anything, you assaulted her more times than I ever did when this whole thing with the mass assault started back at Springfield. and threatening to kill not just her, but her sister Adriana and their mom was the worst thing you've ever done. You're acting just like Samantha's former dad. For that, I say you're guilty.
Thank you, Sage. I call upon my next witness, Vincent Muttle.
I agree with Sage. Mr. Easton, you're a very sick man. For everything you did to Simona, I say you're guilty.
Thank you, Vincent. I call upon my next witness, Landon Dale.
Mr. Easton, are you insane? What made you think it was a good idea to assault Simona and threaten to kill her and the rest of your own family with the same ruby dagger she used? You know very well that threatening to kill someone is against the law. And look at you. You ended up in jail for that. In addition, I say you're guilty.
Thank you, Landon. I call upon my next witness, Kendra Dale.
I agree with Landon. I say Dan's guilty.
Thank you, Kendra. I call upon my next witness, Michael Dale.
Mr. Easton, what you did to Simona was totally uncalled for. You treated her so badly she couldn't even think straight, and for that, I say you're guilty.
Thank you, Michael. I call upon my next witness, Indigo Dale.
I agree with Michael. I say Mr. Easton's guilty.
Thank you, Indigo. I call upon my next witness, Mason Dale.
I'm on the same page as Indigo. I say Mr. Easton's guilty.
Thank you, Mason. I call upon my next witness, Frederick Halifax.
Dan's been a terrible father to Simona and her sister and a terrible husband to their mother Maria. He assaulted Simona a few times, including the time he and Maria gave her a bell beating for teaming up with Alexine to bully Justin and Phoenix. He even disowned Simona the day she and Deacon got expelled and arrested for not only what they did to Sakura, but for the mass assault war between them and the Sage crew. And worst of all, when Simona got bailed out, he tried to kill his entire family with the same ruby dagger she used to hold Abigail hostage during that mass assault war. All because they confronted him about the way he treated her. Therefore, I say he's guilty.
Thank you, Frederick. I call upon my next witness, Tracy Halifax.
I agree with Frederick. I say Dan's guilty.
Thank you, Tracy. I call upon my next witness, Dustin Halifax.
Mr. Easton, I know Simona tried to kill Abigail with a ruby dagger and defended Sakura all because she was bisexual and of Japanese descent, but what you did was no better. You've gone insane. So for everything you've done to her and the rest of her family, I say you're guilty.
Thank you, Dustin. I call upon my next witness, Dexter Dash.
Dan, you should be ashamed of yourself. How could you treat Simona like a punching bag and try to kill her and the rest of your family? Have you lost your mind? What in the world is your problem? Look, I know Simona offended Sakura and tried to kill Abigail, but you've gone too far. And for that, I say you're guilty.
Thank you, Dexter. I call upon my next witness, Annabelle Dash.
I agree with Dexter. What Dan did was completely out of proportion and over the top. So I say he's guilty.
Thank you, Annabelle. I call upon my next witness, Weston Dash.
I agree with my cousin Mr. Easton. You've crossed the line when you assaulted Simona and tried to kill her with the same ruby dagger she used to hold Abigail hostage. So for that, I say you're guilty.
Thank you, Weston. I call upon my next witness, Mackenzie Dash.
I agree with Weston. I say Mr. Easton's guilty.
Thank you, Mackenzie. I call upon my next witness, Richard Rivera.
Ay caramba. Dan, I can't believe you right now. How could you be so cruel to your wife and your daughters? Especially your daughter Simona. See, I understand she offended Sakura all because she was bisexual and of Japanese descent, and I know she tried to kill Abigail with a ruby dagger, but what you did was no better. You assaulted her a few times yourself, tricked Maria into helping you give Simona the belt for bullying Osiris's younger hermano Justin and the latter's best amigo Phoenix. Made your wife go along with Simona's disowning the day said daughter got expelled and arrested along with Deacon, and threatened to kill your entire family with the same ruby dagger Simona used during the mass assault war between her, Deacon, and my son Luke and most of his amigos. For that, I say you're guilty.
Thank you, Richard. I call upon my next witness, Ariana Rivera.
I agree with Richard. I say Dan's guilty.
Thank you, Ariana. I call upon my next witness, Luke Rivera.
You know, Senor Easton, when Victoria and I buried the hatchet with Deacon and Simona, we were sorry to hear about their breakup. But we were also shocked to hear what you did to her. Your own daughter. You assaulted her, made her mama give her the belt for bullying Justin Evans and Phoenix, and disowned her the day she and Deacon got expelled and arrested for the mass assault war. And worst of all, you tried to kill her memory Adriana, and their mama with the same ruby dagger Simona used for the mass assault war, all because they confronted you. For that, I say you're guilty.
Thank you, Luke. I call upon my next witness, CJ Rivera.
Senor Easton, have you gone plumb loco? You can't just treat Simona like a punching bag and threaten to kill her over all the trouble she caused back at Springfield. That's wrong. For that, I say you're guilty.
Thank you, CJ. I call upon my next witness, Bennett Carter.
Dan's as bad as Pierre Webster and Sean Buford combined. He assaulted Simona a bunch of times and threatened to kill her and the rest of her family. That's psychotic and cruel. For that, I say he's guilty.
Thank you, Bennett. I call upon my next witness, Ava Carter.
I agree with Bennett. This is insane. Dan, how could you do this to your own family? You even abused Simona a lot more times than you did Adriana and your own wife Maria. And for what? Because of Simona acting racist and homophobic? Because of her holding Abigail hostage with a ruby dagger during that mass assault war between them and their exes? Mate, you've been a sick misogynistic freak all along. And for all the stuff you did, I find you guilty and I hope you get life in prison without parole. Or a very long sentence in prison if you don't get a life sentence.
Thank you, Ava. I call upon my next witness, Neville Carter.
Wow. Just wow. I can't believe what I just heard. Mr. Easton, how could you treat Simona like a punching bag and a piece of junk meant to be thrown away? Have you gone nuts? That's not how you teach her a lesson for acting like a racist and homophobic psychopath. For assaulting her, disowning her, and threatening to kill her, I say you're guilty.
Thank you, Neville. I call upon my next witness, Victoria Carter.
Mr. Easton, are you out of your mind? How could you assault and threaten to kill Simona? This is completely unacceptable. You really crossed the line. For that, I say you're guilty.
Thank you, Victoria. I call upon my next witness, Aiden Omega.
Dan, how could you treat Simona so badly? Assaulting her, threatening to kill her, and forcing your own wife to give Simona the belt and disown her? Are you out of your mind? No wonder Simona brought that ruby dagger with her during that mass assault war Sean planned out. You've been abusing her all along. For that, I say you're guilty.
Thank you, Aiden. I call upon my next witness, Natalie Omega.
I agree with Aiden. I say Dan's guilty.
Thank you, Natalie Omega. I call upon my next witness, Dominic Omega.
Mr. Easton, what you did to Simona was totally uncalled for. Not only did you give her a belt beating, but you assaulted her a bunch of times, disowned her, and worst of all, you tried to kill her and the rest of her family with the same ruby dagger she brought with her during that mass assault war between her, Deacon, and the Sage crew. For that, I say you're guilty.
Thank you, Dominic. I call upon my next witness, Jeff Hawk.
From what I heard, Don's been treating Simona like a punching bag and worst of all, he threatened to kill his entire family all because they confronted him for abusing her. That guy's a real screws, so for all the times he did Simona wrong, I say he's guilty.
Thank you, Jeff Hawk. I call upon my next witness, Skyhawk.
What? The officer who brought me here against my will? She's testifying against me?
That's right, scumbag. You disgust me. You assaulted your own daughter, forced your own wife to give her the belt and disown her, and threatened to kill your entire family. And you even tried to kill Maria with the same ruby dagger Simona brought with her during that mass assault war that was set up by former officer Sean Buford. I may be a cop and some of my fellow officers from the WCPD think I'm reckless and rough around the edges, but I would never go as far as abusing someone's kid. Not even my own. And you're even worse than Curtis and Winter Wilson and Will and Nella Keating. So for every crime you committed against your own family, I find you guilty.
Objection, Your Honor. That cop carried me all the way to her car and dragged me all the way to the courthouse against my will. So I'd like to declare her as a hostile witness.
Oh, I'm the hostile witness, huh? Well, you ain't seen hostile yet, punk. 'Cause if it were up to me, I'd lock you up in a cage surrounded by alligators and sharks. But lucky for you, I'm not going to. What is my domain is sustaining my life.
Calm down, Officer Hawk. Read the sentencing to me.
Yes, Your Honor.
As for you, Dan, while I agree that Officer Hawk was too rough on you, that doesn't mean you're off the hook just yet. Not quite. So, I call upon my next witness, Jed Hawk.
So you're the guy Simona was talking about? Mr. Easton, I'm totally shocked about the stuff I heard about her. You assaulted her a few times, made her mom give her the belt for bullying two of her former classmates, disowned her the day she got expelled and arrested, and worst of all, you threatened to kill her and the rest of her family. Dude, what you did was totally uncalled for, and for that I say you're guilty.
Thank you, Jed. I call upon my next witness, Sean Hawk.
I agree with Jerry. I say Mr. Easton's guilty.
Thank you, Sean. I call upon my next witness, Gordon Clay.
You know, Dan, I knew you assaulted your own daughter Simona once in Carnimation's channel after when she got home from the hospital upon getting her legs healed. But I can't believe you tried to kill her and the rest of her family with the same Robbie dagger she used to hold Abigail hostage during the mass assault war that was set up by Sean. You're as bad as one of my worst inmates from Anaheim, Rick Hazelin. And for all the crimes you've committed against your own family, I find you guilty as charged.
Thank you, Gordon. I call upon my next witness, Yamit Clay.
You are a very sick man, Dan. You've been treating Simona just as badly as my ex did our daughter Ashley. Like Rick, you threatened to assault and or kill Simona a bunch of times. And you attempted to use a dangerous weapon to kill your own wife like he attempted to assault Ashley with. And for what? Because Maria didn't agree with your ways of discipline? That's no excuse for you to treat anyone in your own family like that. You totally crossed the line here. And for that, I say you're guilty, you diseased maniac.
Thank you, Yamit. I call upon my next witness, Ashley Haslam Clay.
Dude, are you serious? You think you can just beat Simona up, threaten to kill her and the rest of her family, and get away with it? You're as crazy as my former dad was. My dad may have been an overly religious control freak and a psycho, but you've been treating Simona just as badly as he did me before he got arrested for the first time. And for that, I say you're guilty, you sick monster. What's so funny about that?
Foolish emo brat, don't you know the full scope of everything Simona did back at Springfield? She was racist, homophobic, and offensive towards people with disabilities. Like Deacon, Tripp, and Alexine. And you, Ashley Hazelin Clay, are no better than her because I can see why your daddy abused you. Because you're a Satanist. An atheist. A spawn of the devil himself.
Objection, Your Honor. I may have been a troublemaker back in the day, but it was only because of the way my former dad treated me. And I would never offend anyone who has a disability, is part of the LGBTQ community, or is of a different race or color. Plus I have friends who are either black or Hispanic. Mr. Easton's just lying with every breath like the devil himself.
Oh, am I? Or am I speaking facts?
Order. Will you two knock it off? I've had enough of this constant bickering coming from the two of you. Especially you, Dan, shame on you. You have no concept of how badly Ashley's father treated her. He's been treating her very badly, even if she does not cause any trouble. As for you, Ashley, your objection is sustained. Just don't let the defendant badger you like that.
Yes, Your Honor.
Good. Anyway, I call upon my next witness, Patrick Clay.
Mr. Easton, are you crazy? How could you be so mean to Simona and abuse her like that? You're out of your mind, man. And for that, I say you're guilty.
Thank you, Patrick. I call upon my next witness, Zephyr Parker.
You know, when my brother Steve told me about all the abuse Simona went through, I'm starting to think that her dad reminds me and the rest of our band of Ashley's former dad. The punishments Mr. Easton gave Simona were just as severe as the punishment Mr. Hazelin nearly gave Ashley. And what's worse, the former tried to kill Simona's entire family. Therefore, I say he's guilty.
Thank you, Zephyr. I call upon my next witness, Steve Parker.
Mr. Easton, what you did to Simona was totally uncalled for, and you have no right to talk smack to Ashley when she testified against you either. And she was right about you, dude. You assaulted Simona much more times than Mr. Haslund tried to do Ashley, and you threatened to kill the former's entire family. For that, I say you're guilty.
Thank you, Steve. I call upon my next witness, Kevin Fenderson.
You must be out of your mind. Dan, you ain't got no right to abuse your little girl Simona that way. You're as crazy as Rick Haslund. For all the stuff you did to your own family, I say you're guilty.
Thank you, Kevin. I call upon my next witness, Jeff Fenderson.
What is the matter with you, dude? How could you treat Simona like that? Have you lost your mind? You know what, Mr. Easton? Forget it. You have lost it. For all the stuff you did to her and the rest of her family, I say you're guilty.
Thank you, Jeff Fenderson. I call upon my next witness, Rashland Fenderson.
Mr. Easton, the crimes you committed against Simona, her sister, and their mom were just as bad as the ones my dad committed, even though he was the one who stole church funds. You're a very sick man. And for that, I say you're guilty.
Thank you, Rashad. I call upon my next witness, Marilyn Fenderson.
I agree with Richard. I say Mr. Easton's guilty.
Thank you, Marilyn. I call upon my next witness, Tazarius Vargringer.
Now what's your problem, Dan? Why you got to be so rough on your little girl? She don't deserve to get beaten up like that. You even tried to kill her mama. You should be ashamed of yourself, mister. For all the stuff you did to your family, I say you're guilty, sucker.
Thank you, Tazarius. I call upon my next witness, Jocelyn Vargringer.
I agree with Tazarius. I say Dan's guilty.
Thank you, Jocelyn. I call upon my next witness, Christella Vargringer.
I can totally sympathize with Simona when it comes to getting physically abused by a parental guardian. Her dad's just as bad as my former stepmom. Crazy too. The only difference is, where my stepmom succeeded with my biological dad, Mr. Easton tried to kill Simona's mom with the same weapon their daughter used for the mass assault war. Therefore, I find Simona's dad guilty as charged.
Thank you, Christella. I call upon my next witness, Jonathan Bagwell.
First Sean set up a mass assault war between his son Deacon, Simona, and the Sage crew, and now Dan assaulted Simona and threatened to kill her and the rest of her family. Seriously? Dan, are you out of your mind? How could you do this to your own daughter? She didn't deserve to be treated that way. For that, I say you're guilty.
Thank you, Jonathan. I call upon my next witness, Rachel Bagwell.
I agree with Jonathan. I say Dan's guilty.
Thank you, Rachel. I call upon my next witness, Veronica Bagwell.
It's one thing for Simona to get dragged into a mass assault war between her, Deacon, and the Sage crew, which was orchestrated by Deacon's own dad. But for her to get brutally assaulted by her own dad? That's even worse. And the worst thing is, when Simona confronted him while he was having a serious talk with her sister Adriana and their mom about the way he treated her, he threatened to murder her entire family with the same ruby dagger she used for that mass assault war. Mr. Easton, you diseased maniac, that was totally uncalled for. For that, I find you guilty as charged.
Thank you, Veronica. I call upon my next witness, Jefferson Clinton.
Yo, Mr. Easton, what the heck, man? Why you gotta treat Simona like that? That was not cool. You tried to kill her and the rest of her family. For that, I say you're guilty.
Thank you, Jefferson. I call upon my next witness, Victor Mendoza.
I don't know what gave you the right idea to assault Simona and threaten to kill your entire familia, Dan, but you're loco in the cabeza thinking you could get away with it. You're as bad as Sean and Rick combined. And for that, I say you're guilty.
Thank you, Victor. I call upon my next witness, Felix Mendoza.
It's one thing for Simona to get dragged into a mass assault war between her, Deacon, and the Sage crew, which was set up by Deacon's papa. But to have her get brutally assaulted by her own papa and also to have him threaten to kill not just her, but the rest of her familia with the same weapon she brought with her. Ay caramba, Senor Easton, have you gone plumb loco? You're acting just like Senor Buford and Senor Hazelin. And for that, I say you're guilty.
Thank you, Felix Mendoza. I call upon my next witness, Andres Davis.
Andres? You're testifying against me? Why?
The same reason I gave Alan Jones. Like how Maria felt about Simona, I never wanted to disown Alexine or even give her the belt beating in the first place. It was my ex-wife's idea.
What are you talking about?
Gracie forced me to give Alexine the belt and disown her without my consent and threatened to shoot me if I even tried to stop her from abusing any or all three of our kids again. And that's the sort of thing you did to your wife and daughters. You forced Maria to do the same thing to Simona that my ex-wife had me do to Alexine. And what's worse, you tried to kill your whole family with the same ruby dagger Simona brought with her during that mass assault war between her, Deacon, and the Sage crew. Gracie may be a psychopath, but you're much worse than her considering how much of a misogynist you really are. And for everything you did to your family, I say you are guilty.
Thank you, Andres.
Traitor. How dare you testify against me for the sake of your own daughter? She's been a bad influence to my daughter Simona. For that, you will pay.
Not so fast. Dan, if you ever try to attack the witness, I'll hold you in contempt of court. Now stay where you are.
Don't forget that old man.
Wait, what are you? Oh no.
I said get off.
Let me go.
Oh my lord, what in the world just happened?
He's lost his mind.
Order. I am pretty much still in pain at the moment. And even though this trial can continue as scheduled, I'll be adding an additional charge against the defendant for aggravated assault against a judge. Dan Easton, screw you. I was going to hold you in contempt for assaulting Andres, but ho, you ruined that. So instead, you'll be held in contempt for assaulting me once the trial is complete.
Sorry to let him attack you, Your Honor. I just didn't expect him to do that. But don't worry. As long as he remains tied up, that shouldn't be happening again.
Good. You can sit back down now, Officer Hawk. Anyways, with that little incident settled, we shall continue. So, I call upon my next witness, Alexine Davis.
What's this I'm hearing about you accusing me of being a bad influence to Simona? Well, Mr. Easton, guess what? You are the real reason why she's been causing trouble with me. You made her mom give her the belt and disown her without consent. Just like my mom made my dad do to me. And for that, I say you guilty.
Thank you, Alexine. I call upon my next witness, Cody Davis.
I agree with Alexine. I say Mr. Easton's guilty.
Thank you, Cody. I call upon my next witness, Julian Davis.
I'm on the same page as Cody. I say Mr. Easton's guilty.
Thank you, Julian. I call upon my next two witnesses, Crowtoon Productions Incorporated and Crow Girl 22.
Aside from brutally assaulting Your Honor, Dan's been going berserk ever since Simona got bailed out and confronted him. He's been assaulting her a bunch of times. He also forced Maria to give their own daughter the belt and disown her the day she and Deacon got expelled and arrested. And worst of all, he threatened and tried to kill both Maria and their two daughters with the same ruby dagger Simona used for the mass assault war planned by Sean Buford.
Yeah, Dan, you are a very sick man. I can't believe you were so cruel to your own family.
Yeah! And for everything you've done to your family, I speak for myself and Crow Girl 22 when I say you're guilty.
Thank you, Crowtoon Productions Incorporated and Crow Girl 22. I call upon my next witness, Carnimations.
You know, Dan, I knew right from the beginning that you've always hated Simona. It was bad enough that you forced Maria to give your own daughter the belt and disown her. But threatening to kill your whole family with the same ruby dagger Simona used to hold Abigail hostage during that mass assault war between her, Deacon, and the Sage crew. All because they confronted you about the way you treated her? Now you've really crossed the line here, mister. And for that, I say you're guilty.
Thank you, Carnimations. I call upon my next witness, Sam Wiggle.
Aside from the way Dan treated his whole family, mainly Simona, he also threw a yoga ball at random people in my channel. Therefore, I say he's guilty.
Sam Wiggle, do you have any proof of this?
I do actually. There were a few witnesses to this whole thing. Lofty the Rapper Offline Guy 2000, his female clone Sienna, Bradley Animations 2K6, and the Wiggles saw the whole thing. Electrical Grape and Carson Animate were also involved. They'll explain everything.
Okay. I'll call them up to see how your story holds. I call upon my next two witnesses, Lofty the Rapper Offline Guy 2000 and Sienna.
Adding on to what Sam Wiggle just said, Sienna and I were talking to Electrical Grape when all of a sudden, a yoga ball came out of nowhere and hit Electrical Grape in the face.
And based on what Crowtoon Productions Incorporated told my creator, it was actually Dan who did it. Therefore, I speak for the both of us when I say he's guilty.
Huh? So it is true. Okay, Lofty the Rapper Offline Guy 2000 and Sienna, thank you for your testimony. I call upon the first main victim of the crime, Electrical Grape.
Dan, did you really think it was funny for you to hit me with a yoga ball? Well, I didn't think that was funny at all. For that, I say you're guilty.
Thank you, Electrical Grape. May I call Carson Animate up to the stand, please?
Aside from throwing a yoga ball at Electrical Grape in front of Lofty the Rapper Offline Guy 2000, Dan Easton did the same thing to me in front of Bradley Animations 2K6. Therefore, I say he's guilty.
What? Carson Animate, Dan did that to you too?
He certainly did. Ask Brad. He saw what happened.
May I call Bradley Animations 2K6 up to the stand, please? Brad, is everything that Carson Animate said true? Did Dan Easton throw a yoga ball at him?
I didn't exactly get a good look, but yes, it was Dan who did it, so I say he's guilty.
Okay, Brad. Thank you for your testimony. I call upon my next witness, Greg Page.
Dan, did you really think it was funny for you to throw a yoga ball at one of us? No. You had Anthony fall down into the ground when you did that to him. For this, I say you're guilty, mate.
Thank you, Greg. I call upon my next witness, Murray Cook.
I agree with Greg. I say Dan Easton's guilty.
Thank you, Murray. I call upon my next witness, Jeff Fatt.
I'm on the same page as Greg Page and Murray Cook. I say Dan's guilty.
Thank you, Jeff Fatt. I call upon the next main victim of the crime, Anthony Field.
Dan, what you did to me wasn't funny, mate. For throwing the yoga ball at me, I say you're guilty.
Thank you, Anthony. I call upon my next witness, Savannah.
First Andres testified against me, and now you, Savannah? You're turning against me too? How many traitors am I dealing with here?
Humph. Coming from you, Dan. You treated Simona the exact same way Gracie and Sean did Alexine and Deacon respectively. You forced Maria to give Simona the belt and disown the latter. And you did it all because Simona held Abigail hostage with the same ruby dagger you tried to kill your own entire family with after when Simona and Deacon got bailed out. For that, I say you're guilty.
The second I break free from this rope, you're gonna pay for this betrayal, Savannah. I mean it.
Don't even try to free yourself, Dan. Just stay still, and don't even think about attacking the witness. Anyways, I call upon my last witness, Deacon Buford.
Even though my dad was the one who planned the mass assault against me and Simona, her dad's no better because of the way he treated her. And the fact that he tried to kill her mom with that ruby dagger she used to hold Abigail hostage while I got brutally assaulted by the Sage crew. That was not cool. Mr. Easton, I find you guilty for all the horrible stuff you did to Simona and the rest of her family. Just consider yourself lucky that she broke up with me.
Thank you, Deacon. I call upon the next main victim of the crime, Maria Easton.
Maria, Don't you dare testify against me.
Sorry Dan, but you leave me no choice. Your Honor, Dan was the worst guy I've ever married. He has been very misogynistic towards me and our two daughters, Simona and Adriana. First he forced me to give Simona a belt beating all because she and Alexine bullied Osiris's younger brother Justin and the latter's best friend Phoenix over their autism. Then on the day she and Deacon got expelled and arrested, Dan forced me to go along with Simona's disowning without my consent. He even made me say that I wish she was homeless. And when my daughters and I confronted him about all the stuff he did, he tried to kill us with the same ruby dagger Simona used during the mass assault war between her ex-deacon, and the Sage crew. Therefore, I say he's guilty. And I want to divorce him. Permanently.
Thank you, Maria. And you can sign the divorce papers after the trial. I call upon the next main victim of the crime, Adriana Easton.
I agree with my mom. My dad's been the worst parent who ever raised me. So I say he's guilty.
Thank you, Adriana. I call upon the last main victim of the crime, Simona Easton.
Dad, you've been the worst parent who ever raised me. You ruined my life and turned my sister and our mom against me. You made my mom give me the belt and disown me. While I understand I held Abigail hostage while Deacon got brutally assaulted by Sage and the others, that wasn't serious enough for you to kick me out of the family. And to make matters worse, you tried to kill us with the same ruby dagger I brought with me for that mass assault war that Deacon's dad set up between us and the Sage crew. I hate you so much, Dad. You don't even love me at all. For all the years I spent suffering under your care, I say you're guilty.
Thank you, Simona. All right. I think I heard just about enough. Dan Easton, according to all witnesses' stories, I hereby find you guilty as charged. I was going to sentence you to 80 years in prison like I did to Sean Buford for all the crimes he committed, but since you attacked me, after when Aunt Ray's testified against you, I'll be increasing your sentence to 95 years in prison instead. But nevertheless, you'll also be forced to sign the divorce papers, and your soon-to-be ex-wife will have full custody of Simona and Adriana. Officer Hawk, take this psycho away.
You moron. You can't do this to me. I had every right to treat Simona the way I did. She should be sentenced to 95 years in prison. Not me. Nuts.
Be quiet, Dan. You'll be staying in this cell for 95 years. And don't even think about escaping, psycho. Now if you'll excuse me, I've got other stuff to do apart from wasting my time talking to you, you diseased misogynistic psycho.
Great. Just great. I got sentenced to spend 95 years in prison and Maria filed me for a divorce and took full custody of Simona and Adriana. This is an outrage. Simona, Maria, Adriana, Andres, Savannah, Carnimations, and Crotoon Productions Incorporated, this is all your faults. When I get out of here, you're all gonna pay. I swear it.
Shut up.